Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Rachna Shanbag Moite, a pediatric immunologist and rheumatologist, and in today's video, we shall be discussing yet another interesting primary immunodeficiency disease known as the chronic granulomatous disease. Today's video, we'll be focusing on when should one suspect CGD, how do we investigate these children, and finally, how can they be treated. So let us begin with a case-based scenario. Here we have a 6-year-old boy who has presented to us with fever for 1 week and left submandibular swelling. In his past history, we note that he's had several episodes of infections. At 2 years, he had left thigh abscess, and at 4 years of age, he was hospitalized for empyema. When we investigate this child, we note that his complete blood counts show neutrophilic leukocytosis and significant thrombocytosis. A lymph node aspirate is performed and the pus culture grew Pseudomonas aeruginosa. As this child had history of recurrent infections in the past, he was possibly thought to have underlying immune deficiency. Hence, serum immunoglobulins were ordered. But as we can see, the immunoglobulin levels are above the normal limits for this child. That is, he has hypergammaglobulinemia. We know that whenever we see hypogammaglobulinemia, especially in a male child with infections, we often think of X-linked agammaglobulinemia. The question here remains, if we see hypergammaglobulinemia, especially in a child with recurrent infections, can it still be a PID? Let us find out. On reviewing this case, we note that this child has had recurrent suppurative infections in the past. He has neutrophilic leukocytosis, thrombocytosis, and immunoglobulins are showing hypergammaglobulinemia. Whenever we see this pattern of presentation, one must think of a phagocytic defect. That is, a defect related to the neutrophils. Two important tests are carried out in this setting. One is the nitroblue tetrazolium test or the NBT test, and the second is a dihydrorhodamine assay or the DHR assay. And both these tests are performed to look at the neutrophil NADPH oxidase activity. That is, in simple terms, the ability of the neutrophil to kill the organism. Both these tests were carried out in the index child, and as you can see, both these tests were abnormal, hence confirming the diagnosis of chronic granulomatous disease. So what is CGD? CGD is a phagocytic defect involving the NADPH oxidase. We know that when organisms enter our body, they are engulfed by the neutrophils. Now these neutrophils have a mechanism known as the NADPH oxidase by which they produce superoxide radicals, and this helps the neutrophil to kill the engulfed organism. Now the defect in CGD lies in the ability of the neutrophil to be able to produce superoxide radicals. Hence, it leads to defective intracellular killing of organisms. These children often present with recurrent suppurative infections such as non-resolving pneumonia. They can come with empyema, osteomyelitis, lymphadenitis, cellulitis, and even deep-seated abscesses involving the brain and liver. Some characteristic organisms are seen in CGD patients. They are often catalase-positive organisms, and they can be remembered by a simple mnemonic known as element space. Listeria, Mycobacteria nocardia, Staphylococcus ceretia, Pseudomonas, Aspergillus, Candida, Cryptococcus, Corynebacterium, and other organisms like E. coli and Enterobacter. What are the tests that can be performed? A simple CBC can give us a clue to underlying CGD. That is, we often see neutrophilic leukocytosis and thrombocytosis. Immunoglobulin levels show hypergammaglobulinemia. NBT and DHR assay are performed which are abnormal in these patients, and finally it can be confirmed with the help of a genetic test. These children are put on antimicrobial prophylaxis, and the definitive treatment remains a bone marrow transplant. Now that we have understood what is chronic granulomatous disease, let us look at another case scenario. Here we have an 8-year-old girl, and she has presented to us with fever for 2 weeks with no localization. Workup for all infections are found to be negative. When we look at her CBCs, here we can see that she also has neutrophilic leukocytosis and significant thrombocytosis with elevated CRP and ESR. A contrast-enhanced CT scan is performed as a part of the PO workup, and what we find is a multiloculated abscess in the right lobe of her liver. A USG guided aspiration of the pus is performed and the organism isolated is Staphylococcus aureus. Immunology workup was carried out in this child, and we see that serum immunoglobulin levels show hypergamma globulinemia. NBT and DHR assay was performed since this child has a suppurative infection, and we see that both these tests are abnormal. And finally, genetic tests confirmed a mutation in the CYBA gene, confirming the diagnosis of chronic granulomatous disease. Now, one might say this child did not have recurrent infections. Why did we suspect a PID? Whenever we see children with deep-seated abscesses involving organs like the liver, brain, one must keep CGD as a differential diagnosis in these cases. Also, look at the pathogen. In immunocompetent individuals, whenever they have liver abscess, often the organisms involved are enteric organisms, whereas in CGD patients, we see multiloculated abscess with caseous material, and the most common organism isolated in CGD patients in liver abscess is Staphylococcus aureus. Therefore, highlighting the message that PIDs can also be diagnosed right at the first presentation. What we need to do is understand the pattern of presentation and suspect these children to have underlying immunodeficiency. So if we have to summarize chronic granulomatous disease in a single slide, we must know how they present. They present with recurrent suppurative infections. Most common organisms involved in these can be remembered with the mnemonic element SPACE. They can be diagnosed with simple tests like CBC, immunoglobulins, and we can perform the NBT and DHR assay to look at the function of neutrophils. And finally, how we treat these children is with antimicrobial prophylaxis, and the definitive treatment remains a bone marrow transplant. Thank you.